Hey there, Potterheads! Thanks so much for visiting the page. We are here with a new chapter for Backward with Purpose Part 1, Always and Always by Dead Woodpecker. And here we have it, Chapter 22, Small Steps Forward.
Chapter 22, Small Steps Forward. Chapter text. Are you nervous? Daphne Greengrass asked. She sounded impatient and irritated, as though this was not the first time she had asked. With an effort, Harry pulled himself away from his rather circular thoughts. About what? Harry said blankly. There was no way that she could possibly know that. While disaster had been averted with Rookwood, further questioning had revealed that he had not been the one to be the bonder in the unbreakable vow, nor had he obliviated Dumbledore and Snape, which meant that whoever had done it was still out there. But Harry was beginning to think that perhaps it was an ally. But why would an ally perform memory charms? Oh, I don't know. Harvey, she said as though speaking to a small child. The second task is tomorrow, right? And you still are a champion? Didn't realize Slytherin House even knew there was another champion, Harry said. Except when you're taunting me in the corridors. She threw him a disgusted look. I didn't realize I'd ever taunted you, she said coldly. Do I look like one of Pansy Parkinson's little sycophants? Sorry, Harry said. I'm just distracted. Not thinking straight. Don't let it happen again, she ordered him. I won't, Harry said. Of the many unlikely things that had happened over the course of the last few years, the fact that he had struck up a friendship with Daphne Greengrass was possibly one of the oddest that didn't involve being a time traveler from the future. She mystified him quite as much as Luna Lovegood once had, though they were completely opposite in nature, except for the fact that both of them were painfully honest. Harry was a little wary of her, not because she was in Slytherin, but because she had no idea what she was going to say next. So do you know what you're doing for the task? She asked. Her brow was furrowed as she made notes on a piece of parchment, preparing for the spell she was about to set up. Harry, who had already completed the assignment with an ease that had surprised him a great deal, fiddled with his quill. I got a good idea, he said. This was a lie. He pretty much knew exactly what he was going to do. Use gillyweed, get Ginny, and get the hell out of the water. I'm still hammering out the details. Also a lie. Hermione had left off searching for the terrible power and had helped him figure out the fastest way to complete the task. Harry had been the one to find the spell that would give the task an unforgettable finish. He was quite proud of this. Don't you think you ought to know exactly what you're going to do? She asked, taking her attention off her work and raising her eyebrows. It is tomorrow, after all. Harry was about to reply, when Professor Octavius swept toward them. Quite enough chat, he said. He looked over Daphne's notes. You're almost there, Miss Greengrass. And are you done, Mr. Potter? Harry nodded quickly. Yes, sir. The professor raised his eyebrow. Care to demonstrate? All right, Harry said. He felt reasonably confident that he knew what he was doing. He'd already done it 3 times, with the same successful result. He had apparently had something of a breakthrough when Hermione had shown him what the ancient runes could be used to do. While the translation exercises still challenged him a great deal, he had enough of a theoretical knowledge that each exercise in the class became easier and easier. He supposed it was because of his knowledge of the future and the maturity that brought. And which rune have you chosen? Professor Octavius asked. Uisgef, Harry said promptly. Invisibility and disguise? The professor grinned. Quite a challenge. I take it you are familiar with the disillusionment charm? Yes, Harry said, although he had stopped disillusioning himself in the corridors. I suppose the fame gets to be a little much, he said. A little, Harry answered honestly. Very well. Show me that you have done this. Take me through the steps. I like to ensure that you have a firm grasp on this. All right, Harry said. He pulled out 2 new pieces of parchment, scribbled "My name is Harry Potter" on both. He drew the rune for invisibility on the second. I did that to create a focus for the charm, he explained. Professor Octavius picked up the paper. It's a bit crude. I'm not much of an artist, Harry said dryly. The other man nodded. And it's really about intent. Continue. Harry drew his wand and tapped the parchment in front of him and muttered the disillusionment charm. He kept his thoughts focused sharply on both the spell and the rune. He had his eyes closed so that he could do this. He had memorized the rune, and USGF floated through his mind. "Well done, Mr. Potter," Professor Octavius said, handing Harry back the now blank parchment that he had held. "Do you understand the theory of this?" Well, Harry knew it, but he did not know if he could explain it properly. "It's about intent, like you said, isn't it? Even though I only pointed at the first parchment, I intended that the writing on the other one turn blank as well. And the rune helped me focus on it. It was like a brand or something." "Impressive that you were able to distinguish the writing from the paper," Professor Octavius said. Harry looked down at his desk. "There are a few invisible pieces of parchment lying around." 10 points to Gryffindor, Professor Octavius said. "I actually had a question," Harry said, when he made to walk away. "Can this be done on people? Like, let's say I wanted to disillusion myself and Daphne at the same time. Would it work?" "It would," Professor Octavius confirmed. "But with a charm like that, it would be far simpler to just cast it twice. Now, if it was a plan, and you're disillusioning many different people at once, then it would probably be more efficient." Harry furrowed his brows. "It seems like it could be dead useful to me," he said. "I'm surprised that ancient runes isn't required to become an Auror." Professor Octavius shrugged. "It's rather more subtle than the spells Aurors generally use," he said. "Even and I love studying ancient runes. I always have. Won't pretend that using a wand is far more convenient." "I suppose," Harry said. It gave him something to think about, at least besides Rookwood. He glanced over at Daphne and was reminded once more of the second task. He was a bit more nervous than he let on, though not for the reason she might think. It wasn't an accident that Ron, Hermione, Cho, and Gabrielle Delacour had been chosen as the things each champion would miss most. The judges didn't even choose it, an unbiased, magical object, quite like the Goblet of Fire did, which meant that there was no way that it would not be Ginny whom he sought tomorrow in the lake. They'd already discussed using Polyjuice Potion as they had at the Yule Ball, but it was too risky. Luna would not have been able to hold Ginny's disguise for more than a few hours, and they wouldn't have been able to switch them. And just how are the Weasleys going to react to that? Later, much later that night, when the rest of their dorm mates were sleeping, Harry, Neville, and Ron crept out of the Gryffindor Tower and toward Dumbledore's office. Hermione and Luna detached themselves from the shadows in the corridor and joined them. Harry noted with some annoyance that they had not turned themselves invisible. "Someone could see you," he hissed to the girls. "No one did," Luna pointed out. "Besides, Ron has that map." "Anyone coming?" Harry asked. There was a long pause. "Sorry," Ron muttered. "Forgot you couldn't see me shake my head. It's late enough. I reckon even Filch is asleep." "You know why he wants to talk to us?" Neville asked. "Probably about my sister," Ron said. "Though we've just about talked that subject to death. They'll react however they want to. We can't do anything about it." Harry remained silent, and he was glad that he was invisible because he knew that Hermione was aiming sad looks in his direction. He, however, did not think that Dumbledore had asked them to meet him in his office because of Ginny. He suspected that it might have something to do with Rookwood and all the questions he had brought up. He almost didn't notice that they had finally reached the circular stair. It took Ron jabbing him in the back to get him on it. Harry was completely exhausted, not just physically, but ever since Christmas his mind had felt bent in new directions. It made his head hurt like mad. "I'm not smart enough for this," he thought. Still, he was glad he was there anyway, despite the fact that he yearned for his four-poster bed. "Ah," Dumbledore said. Just in time. He was not alone. Snape, Sirius, and Remus stood with him, all looking rather grim. "Hi," Harry said. "I'm assuming you two didn't come just to wish me luck on the task." "No," Sirius shook his head. "Though we will be there tomorrow," Remus said. "And it's not like you need luck." "That's what you think," Harry muttered. "What's this about?" Ron asked. "Manners, Ron," Hermione murmured. Ron grinned at her as she flushed bright pink. "It's about Rookwood," Snape said. "Something very interesting happened tonight." "What about Rookwood?" Harry asked. "I thought he was out of the picture." True, Harry had not wanted to know, but he had thought that the Death Eater had been forcibly removed from the game they were playing with the future. "I wasn't satisfied with his answers," Snape said simply. "All that the Dark Lord will reward me drivel was, I thought, a way for him to evade questioning. But we used Veritaserum, Neville said, confused. He's supposed to tell the truth. And he did. Longbottom, Snape said smoothly. But only a very foolish wizard would become a Death Eater without knowing the effects of the truth potion and the ways to minimize the damage. We thought it best to continue questioning him, Sirius said. We've had him at Grimmauld Place. We found out that no other Death Eater knows of it, by the way. Not the fullness of it, which is a good thing. It was one of the few things that he could tell us that we want to know. Every night we've used the same method of questioning, but last night we tried something a little different. Would that we had thought of it before, Remus said. He was very pale, though it was nowhere near the full moon. Sirius borrowed Albus Pensive, and I used the Imperius curse on him to force him to show us how he found out about the prophecy and who told him if he didn't have another Death Eater friend he was scheming with, Sirius said. But he couldn't. Let me guess, Harry said grimly. Another memory charm? No, Remus said. He was fighting Sirius' curse until his nose started bleeding, and the moment he relented and Sirius proved stronger, he died. What? Ron bellowed. Harry clenched his fists to prevent himself from destroying Dumbledore's office again. Waves of fury broke over him. Damn, the ripple effect. They weren't supposed to have to deal with mysteries encased in mysteries anymore. Harry was supposed to be able to defeat Voldemort without the heavy price. He should have been able to. He knew about the prophecy. He knew all about the Horcruxes and where they were. He damn well knew that he was a Horcrux. What the fuck is going on? Harry asked through gritted teeth. He looked at Dumbledore, desperately hoping that he had all the answers like he used to. But Dumbledore looked almost as troubled as Harry felt. I think it might be time to consider the fact that it might have been an ally, Remus said. An ally? Harry shouted at him. How could it possibly have been an ally? Well, Remus said calmly, the Death Eater is dead. His secrets, including his full knowledge of the prophecy, have gone to the grave with him. There is no danger of Voldemort finding out about it from him. We're quite certain that it was the breaking of an unbreakable vow that killed him, Sirius pointed out. Nothing else could have done it like that. You didn't even get the memory, though, Hermione said. Isn't an unbreakable vow only broken if the vow is actually broken? That doesn't even make sense, Ron said to her. We don't know the nature of the vow, Snape said. It could easily have been a matter of intent. Or it could have been that he would never allow even the Imperius curse to force him to tell. We will never know, unless we find out who did this. Who knows about the prophecy? Hermione asked. And who knew about it? Everyone in this room, Dumbledore said. Ginny Potter, James and Lily Potter, Frank and Alice Longbottom. My parents. Neville said incredulously. Why in Merlin's name would my parents have known? Because the prophecy could have meant you, Harry said. He'd forgotten that his parents had known about it, known the fullness of it. He ignored Neville's shocked sputtering, his mind racing. Was it possible that Harry's mom and dad were mixed up in this? It seemed deeply unlikely, but if Remus was right, and the person who had forced the Death Eater to swear an unbreakable vow had been an ally, it might have been. But no. He firmly believed that whoever had done this to Rookwood had also sworn the unbreakable vow with Dumbledore and Snape. Neville, Harry said gently. When did Bellatrix hurt them? In November 1981, Neville stammered. Dumbledore, Harry said, do you think that whoever obliviated you and Snape and was the bonder in the unbreakable vow you made also did this to Rookwood? Dumbledore was silent for a long moment. I think that it is likelier than two separate people doing it. There had to be two people, Snape pointed out. The unbreakable vow requires 3 people. You know my thoughts on this, Dumbledore said. I still do not believe that the person who obliviated us was a foe. What? Harry said. Explain it to me again. Because I would have had to be under the Imperius curse to make that vow, had I not trusted the bonder, Dumbledore said. And I do not believe that there is a wizard strong enough, not even Tom Riddle, that is capable of it. Not to mention that Severus would have had to be placed under it as well. Do you think it might have been my parents? Neville asked suddenly. Maybe it was Merlin. Luna said brightly. Harry jumped. He had not thought that she was actually paying attention to the conversation, and the sound of her voice startled him. Honestly, Luna, Hermione rolled her eyes. Why do you think it was your parents, Neville? Well, everyone says that it was such a big secret, Neville shrugged. And if my parents, Harry's parents, Professor Dumbledore, Professor Snape, and Rookwood were the only ones to know about it, and if whoever did it really were allies, then they're the most likely guess. They were the Aurors that had the most success rounding up Death Eaters after Voldemort fell, Remus said slowly. For less than a month, but didn't they catch Rookwood? But why would Neville's mum and dad tell Rookwood the prophecy? Harry asked. He had a rather large headache brewing behind his right eye. It's possible that something else in that memory would have forced him to break the vow, Snape said. And yes, Lupin, it was the Longbottoms that caught Rookwood, 2 weeks after the Dark Lord went into exile. This is impossible, Harry muttered. Dumbledore, if you really thought it wasn't Rookwood, why would you let Sirius go to Azkaban to retrieve him? You seem to be laboring under the misconception that I'm infallible, Dumbledore said. I assure you that I make mistakes. I did not stop him from going to Azkaban because I did not want this to be another one. And I am glad that he did so. Rookwood would have told Voldemort the prophecy the moment he was broken out of Azkaban had he been given the chance. What about Neville's parents? Harry said, and I know you aren't infallible. You're just not as fallible as the rest of us. I think it is a reasonable guess, Dumbledore said. Far more believable than Rookwood being the mastermind. Harry waited until the gillyweed took effect before he dove under the icy water. For a few moments, he reveled in the fact that swimming, when he could breathe underwater, felt a lot like flying. His body felt entirely weightless, and he sluiced toward the bottom of the lake almost as quickly as he flew on his firebolt. I could get used to this, he admitted, as he saw Crumb, with his shark's head, out of the corner of his eye. Further and further, he went in the murky green depths. It had an odd sort of beauty. He distantly remembered seeing photographs of the tropics in his Muggle primary class. This lake was nothing like it. There were no brightly colored fish, no sandy bottom. It reminded him a little of a wetter version of the Forbidden Forest. He continued onward, using the mild propulsion spell that Hermione had taught him. Crumb disappeared. A flash of silver caught his eye. He turned, expecting to see the flash of a mermaid's fin. But it was Fleur, and she was being attacked by Grindylows. He changed course without thinking. He'd have plenty of time, and this was his future sister-in-law, after all. She was panicking. Her mouth was open wide. He could see it through the bubblehead charm she had used. Tiny, brittle fingers grasped her, pulling her down into the tall weeds that covered the bottom of the lake. Fleur was thrashing around, trying to get away. She had obviously not had as proficient a teacher as Remus Lupin. Stupefy, Harry shouted. Bubbles emerged from his mouth, but a red light arced from his wand. Stupefy, 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 stupefy. One by one, the small creatures fell away. Harry tugged on Fleur's arm to pull her out of the weeds. The moment she was completely free of them, he sped away without giving her another look. He suspected that perhaps 20 minutes had passed since he had entered the lake, and he felt a wave of relief and satisfaction when he saw the merfolk village. As he drew closer, Ginny's hair seemed to guide him to her, the one colorful thing at the bottom of the lake. He ignored the staring merfolk and aimed a cutting hex at the ropes that bound Ginny to the pole. He was very glad that he did not feel compelled to save the rest of them. Gabrielle, Delacour, Cho Chang, and a dark-haired older man, Harry assumed that this was Crumb's father, could wait to be rescued. Grinning, Harry did a compass charm that would point him to the edge of the lake where the judges waited. Once he was facing the correct direction, and certain that he gripped Ginny tightly, he said, Ascendio Maxima. The water roared past his ears. He was moving even faster than he ever had on his firebolt, and he felt like laughing. He and Ginny cleared the lake within 30 seconds. They shot out of it like a bullet. No sooner had Harry spoken the incantation to get rid of his gills and return his lungs to normal than she woke up, clutched him, and began to scream. Harry laughed. Ginny stopped screaming and joined him. They hit the zenith high above the lake and began falling toward the shore. Leviosa, he said, and then instead of falling, they were soaring. He could hear shouting from the ground. As soon as he knew roughly where they were about to land, he softened the earth with a cushioning charm. The impact sent pebbles and rocks spraying all around, though Harry barely felt it. "You're a madman, Harry," Ginny said, though she was grinning as widely as he was. "Don't tell me you didn't enjoy it," Harry told her. She was sopping wet and looked bedraggled, but she was still the most beautiful woman he had ever seen. He desperately wanted to kiss her. Instead, he used a drying charm to protect her from the chill he was now beginning to feel. "Our youngest champion, the first back," Ludo Bagman shouted. The crowd of adults descended on them. Madame Pomfrey forced Pepper-Up Potion down both their throats, and someone dried Harry off and wrapped him in a blanket. Harry spared a glance at the judges and saw that even Karkaroff looked impressed, though that could possibly have been gas. Ludo Bagman shook his hand energetically. Percy Weasley followed, as well as two redheads who had broken away from the crowd of students. "Very impressive, Harry," Percy said, also shaking his hand. "Quite the show." "Thanks," Harry said distractedly. He was looking for Sirius and Remus, who had both said they would be there. He found them a little ways away from the judges' stand, but not as far away as the students. There was a woman with them, a woman with bright pink hair. Harry gaped, and was so pleased with the sight of Dora Lupin. Though she was still Tonks, he supposed, that he did not notice that the Weasley twins had come right up to him. "You're not supposed to be past the line," Percy said. "Going to tell Mom on us, Perce?" Fred said flippantly. "Hey, Fred, George," Harry said distractedly. "Why was our sister with you?" George asked. He sounded more puzzled than angry. "George," Percy said, "I can't allow you to harass a Triwizard champion." "We're not harassing him," Fred said indignantly. "George just asked a question, and I'd like to know the answer." "She's the thing I'd miss most," Harry said honestly. "Listen, can we save this for later? My godfather's here." Without waiting for a reply, he hurried away, skirting past Ludo Bagman, Professor McGonagall, and Madame Pomfrey. It took him several moments to realize that Fred, George, and Percy were following him. But before he could stop and try to shake them more thoroughly, he was nearly tackled to the ground by Hermione, Ron, Neville, and Luna. "Excellent, mate," Ron shouted, clearly not noticing his brothers. Ron pounded him on the back. "Not so hard," Harry gasped, staggering. "That was brilliant," Neville said gleefully. "Almost got hit by a rock." "I knew you could do it," Hermione said. It looked very frightening, though. It was Ginny, who had escaped from Madame Pomfrey, said. "Don't lie," Harry grinned at her. "You only screamed for a few seconds. It was a hell of a lot more fun than the dragon." "What's going on here?" Fred asked. Ginny eyed him coolly. "We're congratulating our friend on a job well done, Fred. Don't be a prat. You're not even supposed to be around him," George accused. "If Mum knew." "But Mum won't find out, will she? Or I'll tell her about Katie and Angelina and what you were up to after the ball." Ginny interrupted him. "I've had just about enough of Mum and Dad's ridiculous restrictions." "So have I," Ron said. They had intentionally moved to stand beside Harry. He suddenly felt several inches taller. The twins looked quite dumbfounded. Percy showed no visible reaction, though Harry thought he might have seen a small smile on his face. He couldn't be sure. "Don't make me reacquaint you with my bat bogey hex," Ginny threatened, when the twins set their faces in mutinous lines. "Honestly, Fred, George, you're being a bit immature, don't you think? How many times do I have to tell you that it was my fault, not Harry's?" "Oh, are we dueling?" Sirius asked pleasantly. Harry turned and saw that he, Remus, and Tonks had joined them. "Is this part of the task?" Ron was about to shout, but Ginny kicked him swiftly in the shins before Harry could. Tonks was not a fool, though, and she looked rather taken aback. "Watcher," Ginger Tonks said. "Do I know you?" Oh, Ron said after a moment. "I thought I might have, though. I thought you were a friend of Neville's Grant's. Tilly, I think her name was." "You do kind of look like her," Neville put in, "except she doesn't have pink hair." "Harry, this is my cousin Nymphadora Tonks," Sirius said. "Don't call me Nymphadora, Sirius," Tonks said irritably. "You let Remus," Sirius said. Harry, Ron, and Ginny exchanged sly grins. "Nice to meet you, Tonks." Harry shook her hand, beaming. "Any relative of Sirius, besides the Death Eaters, is a friend of mine. I think I've heard him talk about you. Your mum's Andromeda, right?" "No Death Eaters in our small twig on the Black family tree," Tonks said. Mum married a muggle-born. All the more reason for her to be my favorite cousin, Sirius said. You seem to have a lot of cousins, George muttered. Not as many as you have brothers, Sirius said cheerfully. No one wants to answer my question? Are we dueling or what? Harry watched the twins closely. Their cheeks were a little red, and they shuffled their feet. Every few seconds, they looked at either him, Ron, or Ginny. They seemed to notice that everyone else was willing to fight them, with magic, if need be, if they said anything disparaging. But Harry rather thought that they might not want to. They'd slowly been getting over whatever anger they might have this entire term. Harry hoped that he was witnessing the death of it. Definitely not, Percy said. I am a judge, and I can't allow that to happen. Don't you tell Mum, either, Ginny warned. I don't make it a habit of telling Mother official ministry business, Percy replied. Harry had no idea why this conversation was being classified as official ministry business, but he was grateful for it nonetheless. So, Harry, Fred said, are you going to join the Quidditch team next year? I've thought about it. Harry grinned, recognizing an olive branch when he saw one. I think I'll go for Seeker. And since Wood's gone next year, Ron put in, I think I'll try for Keeper. If they have open tryouts for a chaser position, I'm going for it, Ginny said. Do you even know how to play? George asked. We've never let you. I've been stealing your brooms and practicing since I was 6 years old, Ginny replied calmly. Isn't it amazing how Quidditch just brings people together? Tonks asked. Hermione giggled. Harry felt a great sense of happiness that did not abate for several weeks. It had nothing to do with the fact that he had received a nearly perfect score. It had almost been the way it used to be. Fred and George had gradually relaxed and had gotten into a long, involved discussion about beater techniques with Sirius. Percy and Remus had discussed various regulations on magical creatures. Remus had also stolen glances at Tonks. He had been able to lay aside the worries over prophecy and the unknown person who was either friend or foe. Instead of brooding, he had reveled in the fact that he had been surrounded by most of the people he loved most in the world for almost an hour. You're still grinning like a madman. Ginny swung her legs over the bench across from him one night at dinner. The second task had occurred several weeks prior, and Harry still felt quite content, especially since the twins had apparently given up on ensuring that Harry, Ron, and Ginny were kept apart at all times. Can't help it, Harry told her. Not only have the twins relaxed, but I think the teachers have too. Ginny shrugged. Mum and Dad said we weren't to be alone together. She made a show of looking at the other Gryffindors. We're not exactly alone, are we? And that's not the only reason why I'm happy, Harry told her. Muffliato, he whispered, waving his wand under the table. Dumbledore didn't give Crouch time to kill his father. As soon as he escaped the house, Dumbledore got him. What if Crouch does something, though? Ginny looked worried. I think it'll turn up in the Daily Prophet tomorrow, Harry said, that Mr. Crouch has been put in St. Mungo's. Dumbledore confounded him, and everyone thinks he's completely insane. Dumbledore said it wasn't even a problem convincing the healers that he'd lost his mind. Dumbledore went himself? Won't Crouch find that suspicious? He went under Polyjuice Potion. Harry shook his head. As far as Crouch knows, Dumbledore never left Hogwarts last night. And what of Rookwood? Ginny asked. Did you find out anything else? Not yet. Harry shook his head. But you know, I'm inclined to believe Dumbledore. You know that. He made some compelling points. Maybe it wasn't a Death Eater after all. I wish we could find out for sure if it was the Longbottoms, Ginny murmured. Dumbledore's working on it, Harry said. But we're still going ahead with this. We're just going to have to take that risk. You mean Snape is going to have to take that risk, Ginny pointed out. I suppose that's how it's going to have to be, though. I wish it wasn't, Harry said. But we've had worse odds.
Hey there, Harry Potter fans. Welcome back to the page. We are continuing on with Backward with Purpose, Part 1, Always and Always by Dead Woodpecker. We've got Chapter 23 laid out for you, The Best Laid Plans.
Chapter 23, The Best Laid Plans. Chapter text. On the 23rd of June, Harry found himself walking with Neville toward the greenhouses. There was an air of subtle excitement around the school, and the topic on everyone's lips was the final task. After his rather stunning performance in the lake, Harry was in the lead. He was pleased by this, of course, not because of the accolades, but because he would have a head start in the maze. Still, Harry found himself almost wishing that he did not know what was going to happen. The knowledge of Voldemort's return was a heavy burden, and it grew heavier with each passing day. So when Neville had asked if he wanted to join him at the greenhouses, Harry had seized the opportunity to escape his own thoughts. "Hi, Professor Sprout," Neville said when the door to the greenhouse opened. "Need some help with the plants?" Professor Sprout smiled. "Of course, Neville. And Harry's here too? I have some flaming roses that need pruning. You can show Harry how to do that." "Thanks, Professor," Harry and Neville chorused. Harry had never seen the flaming roses. Each year had introduced them to new plants, but they were generally of the more useful but deadly variety. Neville led him to the smaller greenhouse behind Greenhouse 3. Harry suspected that this was where Professor Sprout did her own researches in magical flora. The students never found themselves here. "What's that vine thing?" Harry asked, pointing at a climbing vine that had blossoms in a dizzying array of colors. The way the colors were arranged, it sort of reminded him of the sky at sunset. "Sky vine," Neville said enthusiastically. "They're at sunset right now, but the colors of the blossoms will change to midnight blue. Some will even develop white spots that look like stars, and then it'll be sunrise and daytime. It takes about 2 hours for the process. You might even be able to watch it. It's looking really healthy, too. You really like plants, don't you?" Harry asked, amused. "Yeah," Neville said. "Come on, the flaming roses are this way." The greenhouse was much larger on the inside than on the outside, so much so that Harry was positive that it was under an enchantment. He could not put a name to any of the plants, though the aroma was wonderful. He could not help but stare around in wonder. "Here they are," Neville said, "right around the night-blooming gardenias." When Harry caught sight of the roses, his first thought was of Ginny. They were huge, far larger than any Muggle roses that he had ever seen. They were a bright, rich red that seemed almost too vivid to be real. But that was not the most unique thing about them. Little tongues of flame darted among the petals. They looked like fairies or fireflies. It made him think of Ginny's hair. "So how do we do this?" Harry asked when Neville handed him a pair of pruning shears. He eyed the bushes somewhat warily. "Beautiful they may be, but they might also be dangerous." "Just watch me at first," Neville said. "See the blossoms that look a bit fierier than the others? Those are the ones you want to get. Watch." He cut one of the blossoms nearest to him, and Harry jumped when all the other roses lit up. The head of the rose fell, and Neville swiftly caught it in a glass bucket. "Professor Sprout likes to save them," Neville explained, "and wooden buckets wouldn't hold it. See how it's still burning? They'll burn like that for a month." Harry watched as Neville cut decisively. When he was satisfied that he could tell which roses needed to be pruned, he joined in. It was satisfying work, and Harry was able to lose himself in it. Ginny would like these, he thought. I'll have to purchase some for her. Maybe Professor Sprout would be willing to sell them. "Harry," Neville said tentatively, Was it really almost me?" Harry knew exactly what the other boy was asking. "Yes," Harry said. "The prophecy stated that the boy was to be born at the end of July. That could have been you or me. I don't know really why he chose me." Neville looked over at him with wide and fearful eyes. I don't think I could have done it. I'm not really. I think I'd be too afraid." "Is this where you start being insecure again?" Harry asked. "You're helping me. You're preparing to fight with me. When are you going to realize that you were placed in Gryffindor for a damn good reason?" "Why, stop being so scared," Neville said after a moment. Another rose landed in the glass bucket. "You honestly don't think I'm scared?" Harry said incredulously. "Neville, I'm terrified that I'm going to lose everyone. Yeah, I may not worry too much about Voldemort will do to me, but I'm dead afraid of what he'll do to you and everyone else I love. You saw my boggart." "But you're doing it anyway," Neville said. "Again, because I have to," Harry said. "But you and Ginny, Ron, Hermione, and Luna, you're the brave ones. You didn't run away screaming when we told you the truth. This is my destiny, to defeat Voldemort. It isn't yours. You could walk away right now." Neville stared at him. You said you needed me. I do, Harry said promptly. I need all the help I can get. But I'm not going to force you into it. You're not forcing me into anything, Neville said indignantly. I want to help you. I'm going to. Did you just hear yourself? Harry asked. You know the dangers, right? Yes, Neville said. And you think it's worth fighting anyway? Harry pressed. Of course, Neville said. But I'm still afraid. Sometimes I have nightmares. I have nightmares practically every night, Harry informed him. But you haven't given in to them, have you? You're still preparing for a war you don't have to fight in, right? You're afraid, but you aren't going to let that stop you. Neville, if that isn't the definition of courage, I don't know what is. Having this conversation with Neville had obviously been just what the other boy had needed. Neville had been mostly silent for the rest of the time in the greenhouse, but Harry could tell that it was a thoughtful silence. He watched as Neville took a good look inside himself and realized that what Harry had told him was true. There was a new light on his face and a new purpose to his step when they finally left, receiving much gratitude from Professor Sprout as they did so. But Harry also realized later that Neville had not been the only one to come away from the greenhouse with something. Neville had needed to hear the words, but Harry had needed to say them. The knot in his belly that had grown steadily over the last month had eased a little, and he was not quite so fearful of what may come about due to his actions on the morrow. Ginny and Hermione noticed this straight away. You boys have fun? Hermione asked, amused, when Harry and Neville clambered into the common room. Neville was covered in dirt, and his robes were singed. Harry doubted that he looked much better. We did, Harry said, but I think we both need a wash. 10 minutes later, and feeling much cleaner, Harry rejoined the girls. Where's Ron? He asked. He's still recovering from the history of magic exam we had this morning, Hermione said. Comfort eating, Ginny added. How are you doing? Better, Harry told her. He threw himself in the empty armchair across from her. And not just because I had a shower. I think I'm ready for the task tomorrow. He took a deep breath. I'm as ready as I can be, at least. Muffliato, Hermione said. There, we can talk freely. This really is a useful spell, Harry. I wish you didn't have to do it alone, Ginny whispered. I don't like it. Neither do I, Hermione said. This year has flown by, hasn't it? It seems like it was just yesterday that I was badgering you to tell me everything. And the Yule Ball was last night, and the second task was this morning. Feels that way to me, too, Harry admitted. I thought it would last forever. It's hard to believe that almost 4 years have gone by since we've been back. The twins caused a slight diversion by entering the common room in high spirits and speeding off to their dormitory after throwing a wave in their direction. Harry waved back. He had a very good idea why they were so happy, and he suspected that the owl from Gringotts carrying a money bag full of galleons, supposedly from Ludo Bagman, making good on his debt, was the reason. They're certainly happy, Ginny said, amused. They finally got their money from Bagman, Harry said easily. I'm sure they're upstairs making plans for a joke shop. From Bagman? Hermione said dryly. Are you going to tell them it was you? Not now, Harry said evasively. But yes, eventually. Ron joined the three of them minutes later, skillfully and purposefully, set about distracting Harry from what was coming tomorrow. Neville joined in, and Harry, who was willing to not think about it for the remainder of the evening, allowed himself to think of Quidditch, house elves, and Zonkos with a great sense of relief. Luna wandered in behind a few first years. The other Gryffindors, so used to having this particular Ravenclaw in their midst, ignored her. When 10 o'clock came and went, Hermione pulled something from her bag. I got this for you, Harry, she said. I thought you might need it. It's a sleep potion. Harry, whose nerves still felt frayed around the edges, accepted it gratefully. Thanks, he said. He immediately drank it. Harry, no, Hermione cried. You weren't supposed to. You were supposed to wait until you were in bed. Harry started to ask her why, but at that moment he felt a wonderful, floating sensation. Ah, he said. His eyes suddenly felt quite heavy, and he narrowed them, blinking often. The ish nice. Someone laughed. I think he might need some help getting to bed, Ginny said. Harry wondered if she was offering, but with a mild sinking feeling, he realized that he was simply too tired to give her what she wanted. Too tired for that. Ron snorted, but it sounded very far away. Harry's ears had obviously been stuffed with cotton. The lights in the common room danced and swirled. He watched them for a while, but there was a sparkling darkness behind his eyes that made it difficult to do. He found himself lifted bodily off the armchair. He suspected that Ron and Neville were the ones who were half carrying, half dragging him to Harry's bed. Harry did not even have the energy to argue with them, to tell them that he could do it himself. "Good night, Harry," Ginny said. "Bright eyes," he murmured before he fell asleep between one blink and the next. Harry was the first into the maze, by virtue of the fact that he was in the clear lead. Twilight was falling, and it seemed a long time ago that he had walked the grounds with Sirius, Remus, and Tonks. It had only been a few hours since then, but it was the difference between staring at the road he now must tread and actually being on it. Time was dwindling away. Heart hammering inside his chest, he did the 4-point spell and chose the path that led to the right. He wondered if Crouch would still be patrolling the outside of the maze, ensuring that he did not meet with anything too difficult, but he might have been impressed by the ease with which Harry had passed the first 2 tasks. He wished he could blast his way through the hedges and head straight for the cup, but that was impossible. They were enchanted to be more solid than stone walls. His scar gave a vicious twinge at almost the exact moment a giant acromantula jumped in front of his path. Distracted for a moment by the pain, it was almost upon Harry before he moved. He jerked his wand upward, thinking Levi Corpus as hard as he could. The spider flew up, clearing the hedges. Harry aimed his wand at the soft underbelly and yelled, "Reducto!" The spider exploded, spraying smelly bits all over him. Harry kept his wand out, certain now that Crouch had not underestimated him. He came to the next divergence in the path. He poked his head around the corner and saw one of Hagrid's blast-ended Scroots. Deciding to use one of the new spells in his arsenal, he did not want to get too close to the stinger. He shouted, "Zimlata," and the magical beast was sucked down into the earth. He waited until the ground stopped churning and shuddering and continued onward. He destroyed 2 other acromantulas, but took several wrong turnings and found himself back where he had destroyed the Scroot. Shaking his head with irritation, he did the 4-point spell again and went straight ahead. He could hear other shouts and bangs and knew that he had almost lost his lead. He was running now. Something reached out and gripped him around the ankle, pulling him toward the hedge. He fell hard, barely managing to keep hold of his wand, and slammed his chin on the ground. Eyes watering from the pain, he twisted around to see what had got hold of him. It was a plant, Devil's Snare. He sent fire at it, stood up, and brushed himself off. Cedric Diggory came thundering past him, and without a thought, Harry tore off after him. But Cedric's legs were longer than his, and when he rounded the corner and found another divergence, Harry could not tell which way he had gone. Fleur screamed somewhere off to the right, and Harry stood rooted on the spot. If Crumb was using the Cruciatus Curse on her, shaking his head, he forced himself to ignore it. Cedric could not be allowed to take the cup. Hoping that Cedric would be waylaid, Harry ran to the left. Another blast-ended Scroot was swallowed into the earth, and Harry felt the world turn upside down when he sprinted straight through the golden mist. "Spider!" he shouted at the Sphinx before she could even open her mouth. She stepped aside. A large scuttling thing with 100 legs and nasty-looking fangs, one of Hagrid's creatures, Harry thought, met him around the next corner. Harry hit it with his Sectum Sempra, but missed its head. Harry rolled, but one of the fangs pierced his left arm. Hope it isn't poisonous, Harry thought grimly, before he blew the creature up. He staggered a little when he rose, and his shoulder bled freely. I really need to learn some healing spells, Harry thought. He used the 4-point spell again. He started to take the left path again, but heard Cedric shouting with pain from the right. Harry checked himself and tore off, following the cries. Stupefied, Harry shouted. Crumb immediately fell over. Cedric scrambled to his feet. He was using the Cruciatus Curse on me. He was imperieused, Harry said shortly. How do you know? Cedric asked. I saw his eyes, Harry lied. Cedric did not believe him. I can't believe you're defending him, Potter. His face was twisted in an ugly grimace. Who would have imperieused him? Fleur's already out of the maze. I saw the red sparks. Cedric, Harry began, but Cedric took off away from him at full speed. Harry chased him, grimly determined that Cedric would not get away from him again. Panic made him move faster than he ever had before in this short, 14-year-old body. "Damn it, Cedric," he shouted. "Stay away from me," Cedric called over his shoulder. Harry was still far behind him, but gaining when he turned a corner. Harry swerved around it and saw. The cup was just ahead, and there was no way that Harry could overtake Cedric in time. Stupefied, Harry bellowed. There was a flash of red light, and Cedric crumpled to the ground. Harry had no time to feel relieved when another giant spider crashed down almost directly on top of him and sent him sprawling, his wand flying a few feet away. Harry felt a flash of pain on his leg, and, ignoring it, Harry dove for his wand. "Reducto!" he screamed, and not pausing to watch the spider explode, he hurtled to his feet and ran. Cedric was also on his feet. He was not sprinting as fast as Harry was, but he was closer to the cup. "No!" Harry shouted. He seemed to be flying. He watched with horror as Cedric reached out, and Harry's hand grasped the cup at the same instant as Cedric's, and they both hurtled away toward the graveyard, to where Cedric might die unless Harry was very quick. He slammed to the ground beside Cedric, and nearly fainted from the pain in his leg and shoulder. Gasping, he staggered his feet. "Touch the cup, Cedric," Harry said. He pointed his wand at the other boy. "What the hell is going on?" Cedric asked. "Get out of here," Harry roared. "Touch the effing cup." Cedric looked both confused and furious. "Did you know this was going to happen?" "Yes." "Now, get out of here. Or do you want to die? You're going to kill." "Imperio," Harry said. Cedric's eyes glazed over, though Harry immediately knew that Cedric's mind was not nearly as weak as Pettigrew's. Harry broke out into a sweat. Pettigrew was going to join them at any moment. Cedric had to be gone before he even saw that he was there. Cedric made jerky movements to the cup. "Take the cup, take the cup, take the cup," Harry thought as hard as he could. They had seconds left. Cedric's hand grasped the handle, and he disappeared. Harry had no time to be relieved. No sooner had Cedric returned to Hogwarts than he heard the faint sound of Pettigrew making his way toward him. The lunch he had eaten hours before churned in his stomach. Pettigrew's footsteps grew closer. He could see him. He was now only 5 feet away. Harry forced himself to remain passive, even though every instinct he had screamed at him to kill this man. He desperately wanted to do it, but the part of his brain that was cold and logical remained in firm control. "This has to happen. This must happen. This has to happen." The refrain echoed through his brain when Pettigrew took his wand, when he heard Voldemort's high, cold voice, and when he was tied to the stone. "This has to happen. This must happen. This has to happen." They were saying things, but Harry ignored them. Their voices grated sharply on his nerves, and he clenched his fists until the palms of his hands stung. Harry forced himself to watch as Pettigrew completed the spell, including cutting off his own hand, and Voldemort returned again. Hatred welled up inside him, but Voldemort was now calling his Death Eaters to him, and Harry must pay close attention. He must make sure that none of them spoke of the prophecy. And if they did, Harry must be prepared. The Death Eaters apparat into the graveyard where the bones of Voldemort's father were laid to rest. They were like menacing, black shadows, so subservient to Voldemort that they might as well have been a part of him. Lucius Malfoy, Crabbe, Goyle, Avery, Amicus, and Electo Caro, not McNair, one by one, they knelt and kissed the hem of Voldemort's robes. Harry watched, wishing he could kill them all right here, right now. But he could not do anything. So he watched as Voldemort described to his followers how he had survived, how he had waited for them to come to him. Harry listened closely. Voldemort said the exact same thing he had before. The ripple effect hadn't changed that much. The Death Eaters were held spellbound, listening as closely as Harry, though they were awestruck, not disgusted. "And you, Severus," Voldemort said softly, "I confess myself surprised to see you here at all. I thought you long lost to that champion of filth, Albus Dumbledore." "Never, my lord," Snape said harshly. "Crucio," he yelled. Snape cried out in pain and writhed on the ground. Harry forced himself to watch. Snape was doing this for Harry's mother. He was enduring this because he had loved Lily Evans so much, and for so long that he was willing to sacrifice everything to keep Harry safe, and to help Harry defeat Voldemort. The least he could do was watch. "I have spied on Dumbledore," Snape said, "for these long years. For you, my lord." Voldemort raised his wand again, and Harry did the only thing he could do. He tried to push the black rag that Wormtail had shoved in his mouth. His scar burned fiercely, and Voldemort felt a cold rage towards Snape that generally preceded murder. He had no idea what he could say, but he could not allow Snape to die. He spat and worked at it. Little by little, it wriggled loose. He used his tongue to push it. "You have thwarted me at every turn, Severus." Voldemort's mild tone belied his black rage. Harry's heart pounded. "It was you who kept a close eye on Quirrell. Do not think my memory so short that I have forgotten." "Crucio!" Voldemort watched in silence as Snape screamed. The rag was almost out his mouth. Harry felt himself panicking. Voldemort was going to kill him. Harry knew it. He felt it through his scar. He was only playing with him now. And then a thought struck him so suddenly that it was almost as if someone had shouted it in his ear. The article. Umbridge had written it. Harry knew it. The Death Eaters surely had no idea. Umbridge was not a Death Eater. And Snape was the best of liars. The rag fell to the ground atop Tom Riddle's disturbed grave. "Snape, you filthy traitor!" he shouted. "I knew it. I've known it since I found out you wrote that article. Would that Dumbledore, would that he hadn't trusted you. I told him." The Death Eaters that stood beside the graves and the yew trees stirred and murmured. Snape kept his head bowed. "Follow my lead, follow my lead," Harry urged him silently. "Do it, do it, do it." "What's this?" Voldemort hissed. There was a long pause while Snape panted. I knew that you would return, my lord. I wrote an article long ago that would serve to turn the wizarding world against Harry Potter. And they have, just like I planned. Even Dumbledore does not fully trust Potter." Harry had the pleasure of seeing Voldemort surprised. "You bastard!" Harry yelled. "My lord." Lucius Malfoy stepped forward. "I too have had that aim. Harry Potter is considered a menace. The Ministry does not trust him. My son Draco has told me that even the parents of his little friends hate him." "I did not know you had Quirrell under your control," Snape said. If I had, you would have returned to power 3 years ago. I swear, my lord, I am your servant. I hate Dumbledore, but I've kept myself close to him, as I thought you would wish me to. Forgive me for being wrong." "Stand up, Severus," Voldemort said coldly. Harry held his breath. "He is telling the truth," he said to the watching Death Eaters. "It was good of you to have done this. Unfortunately, it was for naught. Harry Potter will end tonight. His death will be a gift I give myself and my own rebirthing party. Think again, Tom Riddle." "No," Harry shouted, mostly because he felt like he had to say something. Voldemort laughed a high, cold laugh. He gave his full attention now to Harry. He stroked his wand with long, spidery fingers. "No," he said softly. "Your mother is dead. Your father is dead. There is no one here tonight that would extend himself or herself to give you the time of day, let alone die for you." He flicked his wand, and Harry crashed to the ground. "Give him his wand, Wormtail." His wand was jammed into his hand, and he was roughly pulled to his feet by the man who had betrayed his parents. He gathered his thoughts, grimly satisfied that his obfuscamancy shields were tightly in place, as they had been for over a year. Even if Voldemort did something unexpected, Harry's mind would not betray him. Harry went through the motions of the mock duel. He endured the white-hot pain of the Cruciatus Curse. He stumbled again to his feet. Voldemort said, "The niceties must be observed." This time, Harry bowed mockingly. The moment was nearly upon him. "Watch," Voldemort ordered his Death Eaters. "Watch as I prove that no little boy could match my power. Avada Kedavra! Expelliarmus!" The spells collided in the middle. Harry focused all his attention upon it. The beads of light appeared, and they immediately began to move toward Voldemort's wand. Voldemort was shouting at his Death Eaters to do nothing. Harry's wand jerked and vibrated at the same moment that the first bead of light connected with Voldemort's wand. Screams of pain Snape's screams came out of the wand first, but Harry didn't listen to it. Instead, he listened to the Phoenix song. Even now, it filled him with courage and the strength to keep holding his wand. The old muggle, Frank Bryce, squeezed out of the other wand and dropped to the ground. You show him, boy. Killed me, he did. But you'll show him. The shadowy figure of a woman toppled out next. Harry thought it was Bertha Jorkins. He watched as she pushed her long hair out of her face, and Harry recognized his mother. She came toward him and said in a low, echoing voice, "We're so proud of you. Harry, you know what to do. Wait for your father. He wants to see you." James Potter was already getting to his feet. As soon as he was close enough to speak without Voldemort hearing, he said, "As soon as you break the connection, apparate to Godric's Hollow. Wait for Sirius there." Harry nodded fiercely, accepting this without question. "Now," he cried. He broke the connection, and the shades of Frank Bryce and his parents flew to Voldemort. Harry spun on the spot, and, thinking with all his might of Sirius Kitchen, he disapparated. Once the feeling of being pulled through a tube vanished, and he had checked to make sure that he was in Sirius' home at Godric's Hollow, he sank to the floor. His entire body felt weak, and he was shaking uncontrollably. His leg and arm still bled, though it was slowing, and only a few scarlet drops fell to the floor. "Accio towel," Harry said wearily. It zoomed toward him, and he dabbed his leg and arm with it. He was almost too tired to think straight. He wanted to go back to Hogwarts, to let Dumbledore know that Voldemort had indeed returned. He must have sat for 10 minutes, or maybe even half an hour, debating whether or not he should return. But his father had said, "Crack, good, you're here," Snape said. He was very pale and shaking. He looked how Harry felt. Harry thought it might have been due to the Cruciatus curse. He knelt down, pulled the towel from Harry's limp grasp, and used his wand to heal Harry's wounds. It would have looked very suspicious if you had apparat near Hogwarts. "Thanks," Harry said quietly. "Don't thank me," Snape said. "It's not even remotely difficult to heal minor cuts." Harry raised his brows. "I didn't mean the healing." "You saved my life," Snape said, "although I do not know if that mad plan of yours will hold." "You are certain that it was Umbridge that wrote the article?" "Yes," Harry said. "He was going to kill you. I had to do something. I'm just glad you went along with it." "You would have lost a spy," Snape said. "The Dark Lord, after your disappearance, dispatched me to return to Hogwarts with all haste. I believe he is not as displeased with me as he was. He believes that he can use the wide distrust against you to his advantage." "I know," Harry said. His scar and the Horcrux inside him had sensed the cunning beneath the rage, and he suddenly felt very uncomfortable. "I didn't do it because I was afraid of losing a spy, Snape. I know why you turned against him, you know. You, love her more than you hated him. That means something to me." Snape did not answer, though Harry was grateful that he did not fly into a rage as he had when Harry had once viewed his worst memories without permission. "I have to leave," Snape said finally. "I judge it best that you remain here for the time being, until we figure out a way to get you back without it seeming like you did magic beyond your years. I will tell Dumbledore where you are." Harry nodded, though he had planned to listen to his father and wait for Sirius to come to him. Without another word, Snape disapparated with a loud pop, and Harry was alone once more. Harry wandered out of the kitchen and into the sitting room. The house that Sirius had bought with the Ministry's blood money was far larger than his parents' house, yet it was still a home. Harry felt safer here than he did even at Hogwarts. No one could come here unless he trusted them. He threw himself down on the couch, yawning, though he resolved to stay awake. But the minutes ticked by. Snape surely had had enough time to tell Dumbledore where he was. Why was it taking them so long to figure it out? As time passed, 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, their silence became more and more ominous. It was long after midnight, and Harry was restlessly pacing the floor. The weight was almost unbearable. His feet itched to turn on the spot and take him to Hogwarts where he could swiftly find the answers he sought. But his father's warning echoed in his ears, and he forced himself to stay put. Harry cried out when Dumbledore's Patronus resolved itself into a phoenix. "Do not come to Hogwarts. You will be arrested. Ministry watching."
Thank you so much for being with us, Harry Potter fans. We are back with another chapter for Backward with Purpose, Part 1, Always and Always, by Dead Woodpecker. Here we are, Chapter 24, Interlude, Albus Dumbledore 2.
Chapter 24. Interlude, Albus Dumbledore. Chapter text. Albus Dumbledore. Meanwhile, back at the castle, Albus Dumbledore knew something was dreadfully wrong the moment Cedric Diggory appeared at the entrance to the maze clutching the cup. He felt remarkably as he had when Harry Potter had been gone for hours as he was attempting to rescue his wife from the fangs of the basilisk and, more dangerous, the clutches of Tom Riddle's diary. It was identical, except for the fact that it happened in an instant. It was not process that took hours. Cedric appeared, and Albus knew that what was about to happen would change everything. He stood up. The Hogwarts students were cheering wildly for the Hufflepuff champion. Even some of the Beauxbatons students bestirred themselves to applaud. 5 students, however, had noticed exactly what he had. Ginny Potter, Ron Weasley, Hermione Granger, Neville Longbottom, and Luna Lovegood, a formidable group, immediately began to confer with one another. When Ginny looked over at him, he shook his head. "No, I do not know what is happening. No, I do not know what is about to happen." Cornelius Fudge shoved past him. Albus did not think the minister had been deliberately rude. He was only showing his exuberance. Cedric stood, swaying a little, and as Albus drew near him, he saw that his eyes were vacant and glazed. He could easily imagine what had happened. The effects of the Imperius curse were not difficult to see for one who had Albus' skill. "Mr. Diggory, congratulations on winning the Triwizard Tournament," Cornelius said jovially. He extended his hand in Cedric's direction, but Cedric did not take it. Mr. Diggory." Amos Diggory, his wife, and Cho Chang were the first wave of well-wishers to reach Cedric after the minister and Albus himself. Albus thought of obliviating Cedric, but had to discard the idea. There were too many people around, and it would look far too suspicious. "I'm sorry, Harry. He imperiused me," Cedric whispered. Then louder, "Potter imperiused me." "What? How what?" Amos stammered. "Harry Potter used the Imperius curse against you, son." "He did," Cedric said insistently. Albus noted with dread that the crowd had gone silent. Cornelius stood there, gaping. "Are you certain of this?" "I know what being put under the Imperius curse feels like," Cedric said sharply. "This cup," he said, "was a portkey. I was about to grab it when Potter grabbed it too." Albus closed his eyes, thinking rather quickly. "We will wait to hear your full story later, Mr. Diggory. For now, see Madame Pomfrey." "Alastair," he said to Barty Crouch, who stood a little ways behind him. "Search the maze. Try to find Potter. If he is there, he may be under his invisibility cloak." Crouch immediately obeyed. One obstacle out of the way, Amos and his wife pulled Cedric away to where Poppy was already working on Fleur Delacour, who was suffering the effects of the Cruciatus curse. Albus turned to the stands and sought Sirius. He was already on the grass. Remus and Nymphadora Tonks were with him. "Sirius Black," he said, "if Harry Potter is indeed not on the grounds of Hogwarts, do you have any idea where he might be?" He had full faith in Sirius Black. He was sharp-witted, and he knew well enough that he was expected to play along. He would not like it, but he would do it. The only worry was Nymphadora. He glanced at Remus, and the other man drew her to the side and out of earshot. It was not a permanent solution. She would need to be told the truth. "I might know a few places," Sirius said. "Go look for him," Albus said for the benefit of those in the stands who listened. He was thankful that the minister had gone after Cedric rather than forcing Albus to take drastic measures. "Once everyone has seen you leave," Albus said, "double back. Sirius, you must kill Barty Crouch. Make it look like an accident. Use fire." Sirius paled considerably, but he nodded. He spun on his heel and walked away toward the gates, looking for all the world as though he were about to apparate away, find his godson, and bring him back for questioning. Victor Crumb chose that moment to come stumbling out of the maze. Albus strode over to him. "Did you come across Harry Potter in the maze?" he asked. "Do you know where he is? Where did you see him last?" "I don't know," he said. "I was stunned, I think." There was a large cut over his right eye that bled freely. He wiped it absently with his robes. "BOT has happened. Come with me to Madame Pomfrey," Albus murmured. The hospital tent was as mad as Albus had expected. Cornelius was wringing his hands. Amos was shouting, though Albus could not make out what exactly he was saying. Cedric said over and over again that Harry Potter had imperiused him. Cedric stiffened immediately when he saw Crumb. "And he put the Cruciatus curse on me." Potter said he was imperiused, though Potter probably imperiused him too. "You used the torture curse on my boy," Amos Diggory shouted. His wife gave a loud sob. He drew his wand and pointed it at Crumb, face livid. "Hold, Amos," Albus said. "We must get to the bottom of this. Mr. Diggory, would you be willing to give us your memories of what happened this night? Forgive me, Harry. I know that you have suffered an ordeal, but we must know what happened." Cedric nodded jerkily. Albus pitied him. He was a good boy, brave and kind. He had no idea that Harry had saved him from certain death this night. Albus raised the elder wand. "Accio pensive," he said. "Excellent thinking, Dumbledore," Cornelius said. Albus did not think that merited a reply. He waited patiently for his pensive to appear. He was just as anxious to find out what had happened as the rest of the witches and wizards in the tent were, though for very different reasons. He knew exactly where this was going. Harry would be accused of placing the Imperius curse upon Cedric. Albus had little doubt that he had, in fact, done so, but it might be possible to minimize the damage. Once Voldemort was revealed, and the real Alastor Moody came back from the supposed dead, the memories of this night would be an instrument of truth. The pensive zoomed into the room and landed gracefully on a small table. "Ah," Albus said. "Cedric, you need to keep the memory of these events fixed firmly in your mind. Place your wand at your temple and pull it out." Cedric did so, and the memory swirled in the silver basin like wind made liquid. "I'd like to see this for myself," Amos said, drawing himself up to his full height. His cheeks were ruddier than normal. He was flushed with anger. "That is your right," Cornelius said. Albus led the way into the memory. Cornelius, Amos, and Mrs. Diggory followed. Mrs. Diggory screamed as they came upon the scene of Crumb torturing her son. Albus watched carefully. He saw Harry round the corner and sent a stunning spell at Crumb, knocking him to the ground. He couldn't possibly have seen Crumb's eyes, Cornelius said. He wasn't at the correct angle. Mr. Crumb was indeed under the Imperius curse, Albus murmured. Potter probably did it himself, Amos said. That's how he knew. The scene carried them through. Albus watched as Harry stunned Cedric and was immediately attacked by one of Hagrid's acromantulas. He could not help but feel a fierce pride when he saw how quick Harry was to recover and how quickly he moved to intercept Cedric. Albus had often been told that he had looked much the same, fierce and determined, when he had dueled, when he had been trying to prevent death. The scene shifted abruptly to the graveyard. It was no uglier than he had expected, for which Albus was grateful. He ignored the murmurs and shouts of the others who had accompanied him to view Cedric's memory. He kept one eye on Harry and Cedric, and one eye ensuring that Pettigrew had not seen Harry use the Imperius curse to save Cedric's life. What Voldemort would use with that knowledge, Albus did not know. He only knew that he felt a great sense of relief when it became obvious that the confrontation between the two champions was private. He took a moment to compose his thoughts as the others left the memory. It's obvious, isn't it? Amos said. Potter has turned into a dark wizard. I can't say I'm surprised. Whoever wrote that article about him, and the prophecy was damn smart, if you ask me. Gave us a warning, it did. We're lucky he didn't kill Cedric. He threatened to. I heard him. Mrs. Diggory sobbed. Indeed, Albus said. What do you think he means to do in that graveyard, Albus? Cornelius asked. As to that, I have no idea, Albus said. Though I will make every effort to find out, I assure you. I think we must assume, however, that Potter is intelligent enough to know that he will be arrested the moment he returns to Hogwarts. His actions lead me to believe that he did not intend to. I'll alert the Aurors that they are to stop looking for Rookwood and Pettigrew, Cornelius said, exactly as Albus had expected him to. They are to look for Potter around the clock. Scrimgeour and Shacklebolt are very capable, Amos. We will not let the boy who used an unforgivable curse on your son to go free. Cornelius, if I may, I think it would be wise to set a guard, day and night, on the door to the Department of Mysteries, Albus said. I believe Potter will attempt to get hold of it. Done, Cornelius said. I will also alert my senior undersecretary to begin the proceedings for a trial. I want everyone there who has ever attempted to warn us about Potter. Gilderoy Lockhart, Lucius Malfoy, everyone. If we haven't caught him within the month, and I have no doubt that we will, Amos, do not worry. Then he'll be tried in absentia. A wise course, Albus murmured. He could not prevent this from happening any more than he could move the sun from its course across the sky. Cornelius stalked out of the tent, muttering imprecations. Albus followed, certain that the minister would now attempt to settle the nerves of the restless, dumbfounded crowd in the stands. He stood to the left and slightly behind the minister. Sonorous, Cornelius said. Harry Potter is guilty of using the Imperius curse on Cedric Diggory and Victor Crumb. The minister's voice was loud, and it echoed strangely. There were gasps and cries from the stands. Albus heard a shuffling from behind him and a whisper saying muffliato. It's done, Sirius said. Albus heard him clearly over the empty promises Cornelius Fudge was now making. What do I do now? Take Remus Lupin and Nymphadora Tonks to the defense against the dark arts classroom, Albus said. You will find the real Alastair Moody in the trunk, Sirius said. Yeah, I know. Liberate him and take him to the room of requirement. As soon as Severus returns, I will send him to you. He can heal him, Albus said. Why take Dora, though? Because you're going to tell her everything. And if Alastair is awake and alert enough, you're going to tell him as well, Albus told him firmly. They need to know tonight. You must also know that we, especially you, must appear to fully believe the minister. No, do not argue. Harry will be going into hiding. He will need as many people as possibly to be able to move freely. I don't like it, Sirius said. I hate it, Albus said. Sirius, I'm certain that this is what he would wish us to do. It is necessary. Horrible, but necessary. I hope you're right, Sirius said. He walked away. The students filed away back to their common rooms, as they had been bidden to do. Albus stared at Harry's wife and friends, willing them to be smart. If they weren't, Albus would need to send them into hiding along with Harry. It was a possibility that it would happen anyway. In fact, it was almost certain that Ron and Ginny would join Harry. But it would not be wise to do this too soon. He would need to speak to them as soon as possible. He would like to break away now, but he knew that Cornelius would expect him to help. Cornelius, he said, alert the Aurors, get Scrimgeour and Shacklebolt here. Do you have ways of instant communication? I could apparate to the ministry, Cornelius said. Albus shook his head. They need to be here immediately. I have devised a way of using a Patronus to send a message. If you would like me to, do as you see best, Dumbledore, Cornelius said. The look on his face told Albus quite plainly that Cornelius trusted him fully and was ready to give over control of the situation to him. Excellent. He sent his Patronus. They waited in silence for 20 minutes before Kingsley Shacklebolt and Rufus Scrimgeour came thundering toward them, not even out of breath despite the run from the gates. Albus looked over at the maze, knowing that he appeared to be deep in thought. Alastair has been in there for a long time, he said quietly. Too long, I think. Cornelius did not need another hint. Go find Alastair Moody, he ordered sharply. I'll explain everything once you've returned with him. Albus, you don't think anything's happened to him, do you? I wouldn't think so, Albus lied. Still, he should have come out by now. Sirius must have caught up with Barty Crouch rather quickly, for Shacklebolt and Scrimgeour returned, levitating his badly burned body within 5 minutes. Cornelius gaped at it. What do you don't think? Is Potter still in the maze? Cornelius asked. It was an accident, Minister, Shacklebolt said in his slow, deep voice. He was obviously deeply saddened. Rufus Scrimgeour, on the other hand, appeared entirely indifferent. We found a stunned beast near his body. What did you mean about Potter? Scrimgeour asked roughly. This opened a conversation that lasted well into the night. Albus contributed as often as he could, though he mainly watched Kingsley Shacklebolt. Harry trusted him fully, and Albus began to understand that the trust was not given lightly. While Cornelius and Scrimgeour were quick to fire off suggestions and theories, each more unlikely than the last, Shacklebolt was more thoughtful. Severus interrupted the discussion shortly after they arrived at Albus's office. Albus glanced at him sharply. He was pale, shaken, but looked otherwise unharmed. "Are the rumors true?" he asked. "Is Potter guilty of using the Imperius curse?" "Absolutely," Cornelius said. "And he used it on Victor Crumb as well, and forced him to use the Cruciatus curse on Mr. Diggory and Miss Delacour." Severus' face twisted with hatred. "I knew something like this would happen. I tried to warn you, Dumbledore. Potter's been crossing lines since the moment he got to Hogwarts. It was only a matter of time before this happened." "I prefer to believe that a man is innocent until proven guilty," Albus murmured. He heard the message behind the words. Severus confirmed that Voldemort had returned. He suspected that Harry had escaped, but he wished to know. "Do you have any thoughts to offer, Severus? You have been his professor for 4 years." "I suggest you let Black look for him," Severus said. "Potter will trust Black, and Black might have a better idea than any of us as to where he's gone." "Already done," Albus said. So Harry was either at Sirius' home in Godric's Hollow or at Grimmauld Place. Albus suspected the former. "Very well, Severus. That is all that is required of you. Take the hint, Severus. Go to the room of requirement." Severus met his eyes and nodded swiftly. "Now, gentlemen," Cornelius said, once Severus had departed. "Where were we?" It was not until after midnight that Albus finally said good night to his guests. He was weary, and though he had accomplished much, he still had quite a bit left to do. He allowed himself a brief moment to pause before he sent his Patronus to find Harry. "Tell Harry Potter do not come to Hogwarts. You will be arrested." Ministry watching. When he arrived at the room of requirement, he found himself in the middle of a row. "You can't possibly go, Mad-Eye," Tonks said. "Look at you. You haven't even recovered yet. You can barely stand." "That's none of your concern," Alastor growled. Albus was pleased to note that he was standing up, though swaying a bit, and leaning heavily against a heavy oak cane. "The Ministry will swarm all over the place before tomorrow morning. Professor Dumbledore, reason with him." Tonks turned to Albus with a pleading look. "I must confess that I do not know what the debate is about," Albus said. "And it is high time that you call me Albus, Nymphadora." "I'll call you Albus when you call me Tonks," she muttered. "Mad-Eye wants to leave a will. If I'm to play dead," Alastor scowled, "then I don't want to leave everything to that nephew of mine. By the time I come back, he'll have gone through everything I have. I'm going to leave everything to Tonks. The Order will need funding, and my account at Gringotts is healthy." "Excellent thinking, Alastor," Albus said. "I'm going to go to my place," he said stubbornly. "Leave my will out. No one will think twice of it. It isn't a secret that Tonks here was my favorite at the Ministry. Even you-know-who spies at the Ministry won't think anything of it." "Albus," Tonks whispered. She clutched Remus' hand. "Is it really true? Did Harry, Ron, and Ginny really come back in time to save us all?" "He did," Sirius confirmed. "They did. The Ministry should be licking the hem of his robes," Alastor said. "Fools, the lot of them. Oh well, I take it they were easy to manipulate." "I, for one," Severus said before Albus could reply, "am very much looking forward to the day that the Ministry licks his robes, even if he is a Potter." "Indeed," Albus said. "They have agreed to set up a watch on the prophecy. They took me at my word that Harry would go after it. It will make it that much harder for Voldemort to get his hands on it. And the Order of the Phoenix simply does not have enough people. We could not have done it ourselves. Alastor, could you not write out the will and allow one of the others to take it? I think even you would find it difficult to get past my wards." "Albus," Alastor said. "You'd get through M, but you'd be in a world of pain." "You can't be seen," Remus said. "If you're seen." "I've been at this before you were born, boy," Alastor barked. "I don't need a lecture from you about constant vigilance." Albus hid his smile. "How about if I go with you? Would that be a fair compromise, Alastor? I believe that we have a great many things to discuss." That ended the argument, though Alastor still appeared mutinous. Albus knew that he was feeling a bit humiliated that he had been under the power of a Death Eater for so long. But Albus could not reassure him that it was through no fault and no lack of ability of his own. That would only serve to hurt the other man's pride even more than it already had. "Stay here," Albus said. "I know you wish to go to Harry, but it would be better if we all went together. This would not take us long." The room of requirement opened a door to a passageway that led to Albus Brothers' pub. Though Aberforth did not know the secret, he had already been warned that there may be strange comings and goings in the Hogshead Inn. This last blood relation of his would not betray them, nor would he comment on it. Albus stared at Ariana's portrait for a moment. He could hear loud voices. Aberforth was doing a brisk trade tonight. He tapped the elder wand on Mad Eye's head and then his own. They quietly walked down the stairs. The pub was full of a wide assortment of visitors, including, Albus saw, 2 Death Eaters. He ignored them and strode out the door. "You are, I trust, capable of disapparating without splinching yourself." "Yes," Alaster growled. Albus turned on the spot, thinking of the quiet street and Alaster's home. Albus kept the Elder Wand out. He did not believe that the Death Eaters would come here. Crouch's death was not yet known to the public. They would come later, if at all. Still, it never hurt to be cautious. Alaster stumped toward his house, his wooden leg making a clanking sound that seemed oddly loud. Damn thing. At least that Sirius Black had the presence of mind to get my eye from that scum and replace it with a fake. And he even got my wand. Yes, Sirius does indeed know what he is doing, Albus agreed. Once they were through the wards and inside the house, Albus took the disillusionment charm off himself. "I must admit that you are far calmer than I was when Harry and Ron Weasley came to me with their tale." Alaster riffled through the desk in his study and pulled out a piece of parchment. Not even bothering to sit, he scribbled out his will. "I think we're damn lucky, is all," he finally said. "We've got a powerful advantage. It'll be tough, but I think we can do it. I admit that after 10 months of captivity in my own trunk, I'd like nothing better to see you-know-who defeated. I'm truly sorry, Alaster, that we could not find a way to free you," Albus said quietly. "You will find that Harry deeply regrets your confinement as well." "It was needful," Alaster shrugged. "From where I'm standing, you made the right choice." He put the parchment upon which he had written his will in a small drawer. He then put a slight, compelling charm, one so subtle that the ministry officials who visited would not notice it, on it to ensure that it was found. "How do you think Potter will react?" "I do not know," Albus said. "Let's find out, shall we?" At 2:10 in the morning, the adult members of the Order of the Phoenix filed silently into the Albus office, safely disillusioned. "The headquarters of the Order of the Phoenix," Albus told Tonks and Alaster, "is located at number 12, Grimmauld Place. Potter isn't at the noble house of Black," Phineas Nigellus Black's portrait said. "I've already checked." "Thank you, Phineas," Albus murmured. He raised his wand, ready to send another Patronus message. "Tell Harry Potter come to Grimmauld Place. Wait 5 minutes." He looked around. "Very well, let's go." "What of Ginny and the others?" Sirius asked. "Shouldn't they come too?" "They should, yes," Albus said. "But I am afraid that taking them from their beds would be unwise. We will speak to them as soon as possible, I assure you. But for now, I am certain that Harry would like to have some answers." Albus went first. One by one, they entered the dark basement kitchen at Grimmauld Place. He raised his wand and lit the torches, giving it a homier feel. "Creature," Sirius called. The house elf immediately appeared. He bowed low. "Yes, Master Sirius? Would you mind getting us some food and drinks? And after that, a room needs to be prepared for Alaster Moody." Creature bowed low again. "Of course, Master." They all sat at the table. Creature had promptly brought out enough bottles of butterbeer for a small army and a lone bottle of fire whiskey. Albus opened a butterbeer and took a long sip, and his stomach reminded him that he had not eaten since lunch. He was glad that Sirius had the foresight to ask the elf to prepare a meal. The flames in the hearth made a whooshing sound, and Harry appeared. Albus eyed him. He looked weary and slightly apprehensive, but he was relatively in one piece, though he had not bothered to change out of his bloody robes. "It was the Imperieuse curse, wasn't it?" Harry said immediately. It was stupid, but I couldn't just let him die, could I? I suppose I'm... Harry gaped when he saw Laster and Tonks, sitting around the table looking quite unsurprised to see him. Albus was pleased to see that he was not so affected by the events of the night that he was unable to smile. I take it you told them? Harry asked. I judged it best, Albus said. They did choose Harry, Remus said. I must admit that we were going to tell them anyway, but Tonks immediately began asking questions. She did not believe that you would do such a thing without a good reason. And once Mad Eye woke up, he suspected Voldemort's hand in his captivity. Good, Harry nodded. And thank you both. It was actually part of the plan that the two of you be told, if not tonight, then soon after. You and the W. Anyway, I'm glad that you know. Moody, I'm so sorry that. I already told Dumbledore that it was for the best, Alastair said. Still, Harry said. So what's happened? Albus told him. In truth, Harry did not seem especially surprised, but he also had several hours to think of what had occurred. He had obviously not spent the time in idleness. Albus was pleasantly surprised by this. Harry was a very strong person, but the fact that he was now on the run from the Ministry had to be a heavy weight. He bore it well. What happened to Barty Crouch? He's dead, Sirius said. Won't that just dig the hole I'm in with the Ministry deeper? The Ministry believes that it was an accident, Sirius said. His body was found burned, and there was one of those mad creatures that Hagrid bred at the scene. He was still under the polyjuice potion then? Harry asked. So everyone will think that Moody's dead? Is this a good thing? A dead man can do things that a living man can't, Alastair replied. I'm not planning on hiding out, if that's what you think. I'm not either, Harry said. Not entirely. We will have to be careful, though. I will maintain a large supply of polyjuice potion for your use, Severus said. I have to admit, Harry, that I'm a little surprised to see that you haven't drowned yourself in fire whiskey again. Sirius reached over and ruffled Harry's hair. After the way we met, I figured we'd find you screaming at Voldemort again. I think I would have done. Harry snorted. I considered it. When I heard about the Ministry, your liquor cabinet started to look a little tempting. I'm not cracking up, though, not like I was after I was kicked out of the burrow. A part of me thinks that this isn't even such a bad thing. I'll certainly have more freedom than I would have at school next year. I think you may be right, Albus said. Besides, Harry added, and Albus noted that his eyes shone a little. My mom told me that she was proud of me, and I'll be damned if I don't continue to make her proud. Always and always,